Hi, Paul Bedford here from Retention Guru, and in today's clip, originally filmed at the Retention Convention, and I think this was in 2015, so we're going back quite a while. I'm talking about why I don't think personal training is a good strategy to improve overall member retention. My opinion hasn't really changed in that time very much either, but I'm not going to talk about it now. You need to go watch the clip. Now, it's a little bit longer, so I'm going to shut up so you can watch it. If you've got any questions or comments, which I'm sure some of you will, please put them in the box down below. Alternatively, you can email me at paul@retentionguru.co.uk. For now, enjoy the clip, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye.
High risk approach is you do a lot of something with a few people to try and change those few people, or are you going to do more of what's called a public health approach? You do a little bit with everybody and try and change the mass. Yeah? Well, that's going to depend upon your resource. But for me, personal training is a high risk approach. It does a lot of support for a few people. And for me, a little bit, well, it's a bit difficult because if we just say, oh, personal training increases retention, that assumes all personal training is equal. But obviously, if we know that interaction and correct programming has an effect on retention, we can assume that PT, that what is in PT is the natural outcome of that. What are we going to do with these people? Are we going to get them to work out in couples? Be a friend and bring a friend, buddy workouts. I know that when I work out in the gym, I pretty much want to work out on my own. Yeah? I know that when I go out on my mountain bike, there are probably 4 people in the world that I'm happy to ride with. If you're not one of those 4 and you say, I'm out riding Saturday, do you fancy going? I'm like, no, I'm busy. Even if I go and ride out, because it's just the way I like to be. Don't force people to be buddy workouts if that's not what they want. You train, don't you? Was it Jay you train with? So you always train with, well, pretty much with Jay when he's in the mornings. Who here likes to train or has a training partner? Who here doesn't have a training, likes to train on their own? Who would feel almost creeped out by the idea of someone going, I've got a training partner for you? It's a bit like people, you know, when I was single saying to me, oh, I've met this girl, you'll love her. She's just your type. Are they going to work out on their own? Are they going to work out in a dynamic and I want to be with lots of people? Are we going to give them personal training? Are they going to be looked after by the fitness staff? How are we going to resource that? Can we resource that? It's frustrating for me when they say, we have a member of the fitness staff on the gym floor all the time. And then you say, Monday night, you've got a spin class. Who teaches that? Oh, the gym instructor. But they're not on the gym floor. Oh, yeah. Early phases, engagement phases. This is where you really want to focus on the visits, the interactions and the programming. Visits, visits, visits. Nothing happens without a visit. You can't get an opportunity to interact face to face, which we know is the way in which we have the greatest impact, unless they come in. But if you're going to drive visit frequency up, how far up do you want to drive it? Because if you drive it up to 5 times a week, your facilities and your staff won't cope with that. If we go from 1 to 2 visits per week, or my preference is to describe it monthly, so 4 to 8 a month, because I think psychologically that's easier to deal with, because when people miss a visit, they feel like they can catch up in that month. If they miss a week, they've missed the week, and oh, woe is me. But if we're trying to drive visits, will twice a week be sufficient to actually get them some physical results of the reason they're training and keep them exercising? And maybe 1 to 2 is too big a jump. Maybe we need to do these 0.1 of a workouts. So from 1 to 1.2 in a month, per week per month. 1 to 1.5, 1 to 1.8. So maybe they just add 1 extra workout in a month. But we recognise that and we reward them, go, you normally do 4, this month you did 5. As long as you don't drop below 4. We also know, and there's people in this room that I've worked with whose data I've looked at, we've seen that New exercisers who come once a week stay longer, but new exercisers who've never exercised, who come more than 3 times a week, quit faster. Too much too soon. So there's a medium, there's a managing this expectations as part of the process of looking after our customers. I'm really big on actually getting them to look in their diaries and mark out when they can come. Because their standard answer is, I'll come 3 times a week. And we know that's not true for a lot of them. But if we look in their diary and we can see where they're busy, we can plan workouts around that rather than doing almost this arbitrary, oh, you'll work out Monday, Wednesday and Friday. When Monday night they're at college, every 3rd Friday they're at some charity they're involved in, and they can't do it. So we set them up to be successful rather than set them up to fail. So when we want to plan in these visits, when's your first one? I always want to know when the first visit's going to be. So if they've just joined, when's your first visit? If they've had an induction, when's your next visit? Which day are you coming in on? It was a very big part of what I did in my PhD, because there were 4 sessions, 60 minutes, 30, 20, 10. They were 1 week apart. And at the end of the first one, the instructors were saying to the member, when's your next visit? Show me when your next visit and we'll book you in. And we didn't have technology to do it then. Technology now, you could do prompts, you could push messaging, you could do all sorts of notifications to say, oh, just remember, you're in working out today. And we can actually tailor those to be the right type of tone and the right type of language if we engage with our members and say, do you want this to be really authoritarian, or do you want this to be a nice gentle hug and a cuddle and say, it'd be really good if you worked out today? Or do you want it, it's your workout day, you need to do 5K before midnight tonight? You know, what tone or language are we going to use? Here's a club, it's a segment of data. I took 1,000 random samples just to give you an example. With this operator, you can see that in the last 21 weeks, 89% of their members had used the club. 11% of their members were retaining membership and paying and hadn't been in for 21 weeks. 5 had used the club 3 times, or more than 3 times a week, 5%. 5% 3 times a week, 14% twice a week, 32% once a week, 31% less than once a week, and 11% did not use the club in that period. You don't have to shout this out. You don't look like the audience to shout out. Where would you focus your efforts?